Welcome to Reinventing the Arena, the podcast that guides you through the powerful journey of aligning, embodying, and rising into your most authentic self. We dive deep into the transformative power of doing the inner work because the most important relationship you have is the one with yourself. When you align with your authentic self, you naturally attract the relationships and experiences meant for you. I'm your host, Molly Conley, a coach who's passionate about helping you uncover who you truly are using human design, NLP, and self-empowerment tools. Here we explore the art of aligning with your authentic self, embodying your highest potential, and rising above old patterns to create a life that resonates with who you truly are. Whether you're seeking deeper fulfillment in love or your personal journey, this space is designed to inspire your evolution. Together, we'll explore self-discovery, share transformational stories, and uncover the energetic shifts needed to create the love and life you truly desire. This isn't just about change. It's about fully stepping into who you were meant to be. So lady, align, embody, and rise. Welcome to your journey of self-transformation. Welcome to Reinventing the Arena. Why, hello there, lady. Are you ready for today's episode? This season, I've been feeling like it's time to bust some beliefs, maybe even limiting beliefs, because, first of all, they're kind of fun. And to be honest, this first one I'm going to be doing is kind of personal. As I've been through a variety of trainings from a variety of human design specialists, as well as, consuming different teachings and readings about human design, I have found that manifestation to be a topic that is only used when discussing two energy types, the manifestor and the manifesting generator. So basically, through the teachings, what I read, what I was told was that a generator wouldn't be able to manifest. Yet, my life experiences have proved that's completely wrong multiple times, even before I knew what human design was. And don't worry, if you're a projector or a reflector, this episode is also for you. I'm hopeful that by the end of this episode, everyone is going to want to look at their chart with fresh eyes. If you don't have your chart, you can grab it now. Because like I said, this entire season, you're going to want to see your chart every single time I go through an episode. Or if you have never seen your chart, you can go to my website, reinventingthearena.com, and download it from the homepage. It will ask you for your information, and then at the end of the form, it will appear as a downloadable PDF. So pause this episode if you need to grab it. Today, I'm going to share the following: the traditional or common teaching in human design about manifestation, what is in each and every person's design that supports my experimentation with manifesting, no matter what energy type you are, and my personal manifesting experiences, including one that you may already know depending on how long you have listened to this podcast. Oh, and I am also going to recommend, actually highly recommend, a lengthy book for you to explore these learnings and experimentations with manifestation that's not actually related to human design. As you have listened to other episodes, you know there are 5 different energy types. Recently, I talked about the 9 different energy centers, and that was in a 2-part series. In the first episode about the energy centers, I shared that there are 3 different types of centers or groupings of centers, and that's called the pressure centers, awareness centers, and the motor centers. And how they connect actually creates your energy type, which then goes into the common teaching if you can or cannot manifest. The manifestor and the manifesting generator not only have their throat center defined, but somehow that throat center is connected to a motor center. And as a reminder, motor centers are the sacral, the solar plexus, heart, and the root. Sometimes they are even connected through another center, such as your spleen. It makes it almost like a pit stop. So these motor centers are where we have sustainable energy and movement. And when it's connected to the throat, it causes movement in creation, emotion, willpower, and actually pressure through the voice from those connections. Now, if you've heard anything about manifestation, People believe that you must speak it into existence. And with human design, it's believed that manifestation is caused by having a defined throat. That being said, I would like to say this belief truly limits the potential of each and every one of our non manifesting energy types. True manifestation isn't just something that's spoken, it is something that is created, it is something felt, it is something powerful, it is something that is released. So, what if the mechanics of manifestation within your design were already working for you? You just didn't realize it yet. During one of my fall slash, winter sabbaticals from my business, I was reading a book recommended to me by someone who studied neuroscience and had very much enjoyed dabbling in the world of manifestation. You might have already read this book, you might have already heard of it, but it is called Becoming Supernatural by Dr. Joe Dispenza. While this book contains examples and his own experiments with clients, it also contains science, such as quantum physics, which is also part of human design. So, not only did I find areas within his book that overlap with human design, but also with my experience with manifestation. First, and the most foundational, is the identity center and something called the magnetic monopole. Quantum physicists are still trying to replicate or discover this theory. Honestly, they debate back and forth whether this exists or not. Yet in human design, the magnetic monopole is actually found within all human beings. The magnetic monopole is then found within your identity center, which is also known as your G center. The magnetic monopole actually brings your life towards you. This is manifestation. Now, you don't have to have your identity center defined to bring your life towards you, but just a little bit more of a background in case you haven't listened to those podcast episodes about the centers. The identity center is focused on direction, obviously identity, and self-love. When it's defined, your sense of self is pretty obvious and well known to you. You know where you're going, even if you don't know how you're actually going to get there. Making changes to your identity can be somewhat of a struggle and it can take time. But overall, you really do enjoy and love being who you are. Now, if it's undefined, your identity is very fluid. I have mine undefined actually. And your sense of direction or even yourself seems to change constantly. Sometimes think of it as like a chameleon. One of the gifts is that you're able to see other people's identity and their sense of direction, usually better than they can. More than likely, you do struggle with loving yourself, and this is why you might want to go try on other people's identities to figure out your own. Also, being in the correct environment for you is critical with how you feel about yourself and how you feel energetically. So, environment may mean for you the city you live in, or it can even be something like where you sit in a restaurant. So, feeling out those energies in your environment is really important. This also goes for choosing the people and places in your life because you want to make sure that they feel good to you because that's extremely important. So, why does it really matter? Well, learning to love yourself for who you are is the energetic engine to the magnetic pole. So, surrounding yourself with an environment that feels good, people that feel good to you, is also helping drive your energetic engine for that magnetic monopole. Now, in Dispenza's book, he describes the physical heart, not the heart center, as generating a powerful magnetic field. So when you combine a clear intention with an elevated emotion, you literally change your electromagnetic signature and you draw new experiences towards you. The magnetic monopole is your design's built-in version of this exact thing. Your personal access point to what Dispenza calls the quantum field. It's the same mechanism, just two different maps. And of course, there's more. His research shows the electromagnetic field of the heart is in constant communication with the brain and the nervous system. It's not just a pump, it's the center of intelligence. And there's other studies that talk about this too, and I cannot name them. There are more than likely references in the back of this book. So when we look at all of this, when we look at the heart in the middle of this electromagnetic field, or looking at the heart as electromagnetic field, when it's coherent, it's beating in a steady, orderly rhythm. It creates a measurable magnetic field that can influence your reality. So, what do you think about you living in alignment with your design? You're creating a heart coherence naturally without forcing it. This is why living the big three, your type, your strategy, your authority, isn't just personal growth, it's activating your magnetic field beyond just the identity center, beyond the magnetic monopole. So, now what happens when you're living those big three in your real life? You begin to feel emotions that are tied to your signature, or your also known as your self theme. As a reminder, for generators, that is satisfaction. For projectors, that is success. For reflectors, it's delight or surprise. For manifestors, it's peace. And for manifesting generators, it's a combination of peace and satisfaction. So these elevated emotions act as a signal, not only that you're living in more alignment, but you actually have the potential to manifest from this. And Dispenza is clear about this in his book. Like, you cannot have intention alone. It's really not enough to activate the heart's electromagnetic field. You have to have that elevated emotion, because that's the charge that creates the pull, and it cannot be fake either. Emotions such as gratitude, joy, and love are not just feel-good emotions or feel-good states. They can actually be measured in frequencies that synchronize the heart and the brain. So when you include your signature theme of your energy type alongside feeling authentically you, with loving yourself for who you are, you can experience these emotions on a more regular basis. Then the emotion, like I said, it's not faked, it's not manufactured, it's the natural byproduct of being in your design and being authentically you. So overall, you're changing your electromagnetic signature. In his book, once again, is called Becoming Supernatural, he teaches that combining focused intention with elevated motion changes that electromagnetic signature, and you become a match for a new reality, which in turn creates manifestation. So in human design, when you're operating from your definition, honoring your undefined or open centers, and not forcing things, you're actually doing this already, because you're not pushing or forcing reality to you. You're becoming the signal that draws everything in. Once again, that's activating the magnetic monopole. Technically, I could stop this podcast episode like right here, and you would probably have enough to play with for a few months or even years. But that's just not how I'm going to roll today. So the next area that I have found that has helped me manifest is digging deeper into the gates that are paired with a specific planet, and that is the planet Mercury. I am going to lean into the traditional belief here that your throat or your voice is a manifesting tool, because Mercury is the planet that governs how you communicate and what you put out into the world. To be honest, this has been a lovely gate for myself in my personality Mercury gate that helps me really manifest intuitively. I mentioned this before on the podcast that I have gate 57. I actually have it twice show up in my planets. And it's located in the spleen, and it's the most intuitive gate in the chart. I also have it as a line 3. And if you are a human design specialist, know that it is exalted in my chart. When I review this gate, I have intuitive clarity. And when I pair it with Mercury, I have, or I can have, the capability to eliminate doubt with intuitive clarity and then speak my manifestation. Reviewing your Mercury gates may uncover some unique opportunities for yourself, especially, like I said, for manifestation. Once again, you will want to play with your big 3 of your energy type, strategy, and authority in order for this to come out more in your life, or for you to actually see it specifically. Last but not least, it's your Incarnation Cross. I have not dived into this much on the podcast, and because it's super deep. It's not just like something that's a little bit easy, like your profile type or your centers or even just your gates. Let me even just keep this at a higher level. There are 192 basic basic incarnation crosses. And what your incarnation cross is your life theme or your energetic theme. I will never say it's your purpose, because it just doesn't make sense that way. Even though some people do roll with it that way, I rather would say it's your energetic life theme. So envision that it's a river that you get to float on when you're trusting your life and living in alignment. You're not forcing your life to move upstream or trying to swim up the current. This river is the direction that you are on, and your magnetic monopole is like guiding the way. Your incarnation cross is composed of 4 gates. And if you're looking at your chart right now, there's the personality side on the right, and there's the design side on the left. Those top 2 on the right and the top 2 on the left are the combination for your incarnation cross. And here is how it goes. It's your personality sun gate for the very top right, and then your personality earth gate, which is the second one on the right. Then we move to the design side, and it's your design sun gate, so very top left, and then your design earth gate, which is right underneath that. To find those, like I said, you should be looking at your chart. You need to pause it right now, go through it with your chart and write it down. Also know that your incarnation cross is something that I usually bring up in your first human design reading with me, especially if it relates to the question that you've asked. But I really bring this in for the 2-hour human design reading that is in both my coaching and mentorship, as it's something that we really will return to, especially if it's what you're focused on for coaching, but it's what we dance with sometimes in mentorship. So from there, that's the map. Those are the mechanics. And I want to be clear that I'm not sharing this as a theory. I'm sharing it because I've lived this 3 times or more. And 2 of them happened to be before I even knew or even pulled my human design chart, before I knew what magnetic monopole was, before I could tell you the difference between an undefined or a defined identity center. That means my design was honestly, or what I was doing at the time was actually living in alignment for where I was at in my life. So here's 3 personal manifestation stories that go with what I just shared with you. The first one you might have heard before, depending on how far back you've been listening to this podcast. And this is how I manifested my husband. So before I met my husband, if you don't know, I was married and divorced, only married for 3 years, and had some really horrible dating experiences online, in person, whatever you want to say, for a few years after that. And finally, I was fed up with the online dating world. I was fed up with the men in my town, because if you've been single, you will always say there's no good men left in my city or whatnot. And it's so not true. But you feel that way. You feel very jaded. And a problem that I had was that I kept falling for very similar people. And I would later on be like, I know I don't want that. Why am I still attracted to this? And so I did a lot of inner work. I did go to therapy, but mainly for my career focus. I didn't go for romance. I literally was reading a self-help book and actually applying what I needed. And some of those things worked and some of them didn't. But what I decided to do was create, which you also, if you've been here a long time ago, I did something called the Man of My Spreadsheet Dreams. I did that as a workshop. I did that as a group coaching program. And I even have a few podcast episodes. Actually, there's a podcast episode where my husband actually gets to see what I wrote out that I wanted in a husband. And so when I was doing this inner work, I literally found things like must have a 401k. And people are like, oh, Molly, that's so rude. I'm like, no, that means he's in a job where they actually pay him benefits. That means that if he has a 401k, he's actually contributing to his future. And if a man is contributing to his future, he might be thinking of what his future might be like with me. There's this whole little visualization narrative from one thing, right? So I got super specific and I wrote out 65 things, 65 qualities, not vague, like must be tall, must be 6'5". No, I was like legit, like let's live this shit. 65 things. What I wanted in a partner, what I wanted in a relationship, what I wanted in a life together, what I wanted to feel like, all those things. But here's what I understand now that I didn't understand then. It really wasn't about the list. The list was almost beside the point. What I was doing was really shifting my identity. I was shifting what I was looking for in a relationship before it even started. I was getting so clear on who I was, what I valued, what I was available for, and what I was not. Because then I was becoming the version of myself of who was a match for that sort of relationship. And after doing this, honestly, it was like 3 years, he showed up with 63 of the 65 qualities. Yes, I think that's right, 63 of 65. Now, in human design, that was my sacral and that was my identity center. And I say sacral because that's my strategy and authority. I was like somehow already living my big three, doing exactly what they were designed to do. The magnetic monopole had that one job, to draw in the life that I wanted. It doesn't push, it doesn't chase, it pulls. And it pulls what you are a match for. So when I did that inner work, when I got clear on what I wanted in a relationship, when I got clear on my identity, I wasn't just making a list. I was really reinventing myself, recalibrating my inner signal. I was becoming an electromagnetic match for what I wanted. Okay, so the second story, it still relates to my now husband. It's a little bit more fun. And honestly, it's a little ridiculous, but that's fine. It's one of my favorites because I can't explain how this would happen. So Brad and I met in 2019. He proposed, was it New Year's of 2020? Yeah, we had lived together already through the beginning of COVID. And so on New Year's Eve, we were engaged and I was super excited. We were planning on getting married in, October 2021. But if you recall, everything's shut down and I need to find a wedding dress. And I don't know how many people do this, but I still love Pinterest. And I went onto Pinterest and I found, honestly, numerous wedding dresses. And then I found the one and I'm staring at it and I'm like, oh my God, it is so beautiful. It is like a mermaid, train, lace, V-neck, low back, so pretty. But if you know anything about weddings and wedding dresses, this is 2021. And this dress is from a boutique in Australia. And it is from 2018, spring. Normally, you would be getting dresses for 2022 spring in the fall, I think, of 2021. So technically, I would be getting, if I was shopping in the spring, I'd be getting fall dresses. And so when I found it, I was like, but that's fine. I can find something very similar to this. And so I showed my friends. I was like, I can't wait. If you see anything like this, let me know. I'm going to try my hardest to find it. So I would spend hours looking online for a dress similar than that. And I know that you could get one used somewhere that would be similar. But I, once again, I'm like, then I'd have to go get it fitted and I have to go do this. And at the time, I was really wanting to make this a budget-friendly wedding. And so I would buy a dress and maybe be like $250. I would try it on and it would not look anything like I had hoped. I would be so frustrated I'd have to send it back. And I'd buy another dress where I'd upped it to $500 as my budget. I'm like, nope. And we were gonna have a small wedding. So this was not something I was planning on spending a bunch of money on. And I couldn't do with a $500 dress. And finally, my mom's like, let's just go try on dresses together. Let's pick a few places that are actually open and have private meetings for brides. And I'm like, okay. And this local, and I was in Omaha, Nebraska at the time, they would put the dresses online and you could heart them, put them in your basket. And if they had them in the store, they would actually line them up for you, or they would find something similar for the day you went to try them on. So the night before I'm doing this with my mom, Brad had such a great day at work, or something really great happened, and we decided to go celebrate. And when I mean celebrate, I had too much wine. And so the next day, it's the worst ever. Not the worst ever, but it was not great. I was so hungover that I almost canceled my dress fitting, like to go find a dress. I think I had like 3 glasses of wine. It was not great. And so this was not my best decision, not my highest moment, but I was like, I'm going to push through and I'm going to go with my mom. So we went to the first place and they had, 3 to 4 dresses. Maybe actually, no, they probably had 6 dresses lined up for me, but I picked out 3 and I tried each and every one of them on, and every single one felt good. Maybe one didn't like the color. Maybe I didn't like this one, but I was really down to 2. I had my mom cancel our next appointment with a different company where we were going to do our next fitting. And I went into the dressing room and I felt this one dress and I was like, oh, this one's so beautiful. But instantly my body was like, nope, that's not it. And I went and I looked at the other dress and I was like, oh, but I love this dress. And I told myself, I'm going to put that dress that I love on. And if I don't love it, I'll put on the first dress that I was like, ooh, really pretty, whatever. I put on that dress and I was like, oh, this is it. And so the goal was for me to walk out with the dress that I wanted. And I did. I walked out. I showed my mom and she started crying. And I was like, yep, this is it. This is the dress. I feel so good. I feel so me. I feel so beautiful in this dress. I change, and what's super funny, I'm like, oh my God, I'm having a hangover moment now. My body instantly went into, are you ready to throw up? I'm like, no, we have to get out of here before I throw up on my dress. And so we're checking out, and I go outside. I'm like, hey, I need to go out and breathe for a minute. And they're like, oh, she's emotional. I'm like, no, I'm hungover. And so I go out and breathe, come back in, and they go to check out the dress and they're like, oh, I'm so glad that this dress is finally getting some love. We've had it for a really long time and its name is blah. And I was like, wait a minute, what? And that's not the name. Blah is not the name. But she said the name. And it's not the boutique owner's name. It's this boutique from Australia names their dresses as people. And I was in shock because that was the exact dress that I had put on my Pinterest board 3 months ago. And I could not believe it because it's COVID. This dress was from spring 2018. And here we are, spring of 2021. And this was a consignment dress that people usually try on to make sure that they want it. And it basically fit me perfectly. There was very, very little alterations that were going to be needed done. I think it was just going to need to be the straps. And I just stood there completely stunned. And guess what? The morning before we went to go get this dress, I increased my budget to $2,000. What was the price of the dress? $2,000. I just was in shock and also feeling really hungover. I had to call it an end of the day. So I feel bad for my mom. She didn't get the full experience, but I'm like, holy crap, how did that just happen? So now let me bring you back into what happened in my human design. Here's what I know now that I didn't know then. That gate 57.3 in my Mercury was what happened. The clarity of my desire that I had been speaking about that dress into existence without even realizing it. I was talking about it with my friends. Not only did I pin it, but I looked at it all the freaking time. I was clearly having it in my mind and in my energy. And that Mercury gate, because I was speaking about it, because I was focused on it, because that was in gate 57, the intuitive clarity of being like, this is what I want. It was great. It was broadcasting a signal into the field. But here's the catch. I didn't recognize that dress when I was there because why? B, because I was hungover. And that was actually a really perfect way to show that my sacral was also really working with this because I wasn't in my head. I wasn't overriding my body. My sacral could do its job without my brain getting in the way. And so, just a review here, that sacral, that gate 57.3 in Mercury, and even the magnetic monopole drew it all in. So my sacral recognized it, and Mercury had been sending out the signal of also bringing it in. I just had no idea that's what was happening. Okay, third and final story. This one is more recent, and this one is different because at this point, I did know my design. I just wasn't consciously working on a manifesting strategy. I was just more practicing about being in alignment, really embodying my design. And I want you to notice what happened when you start doing that. Last October, I was on another sabbatical, the fall and winter, where I just intentionally stepped back from my business and I just let myself rest. It's almost like a reset for me when everyone else is just scrambling because it's a busy holiday season. It's just not my vibe. So my husband and I went to Chicago. And like I said, I wasn't in work mode at all. I wasn't thinking about creating content. No, not at all. I wasn't thinking about getting clients. I wasn't thinking about I have to generate revenue. I was just being and enjoying. We spent time with his friends who quickly became my friends. We explored a part of Chicago called Andersonville, which is where they live by. And this incredible neighborhood, if you've never been there before, it has so much life to it. It has a community, it has energy, but it still feels like a small knit neighborhood in a big city. And at some point, I started daydreaming. By that time, we already knew we were moving to Portland. And I started thinking, what if our life in Portland felt like this? What if we lived in this kind of neighborhood? What if we had this community? What if we had this energy? What if we had these businesses, these little shops? What would it feel like to have friends like this in this area? This kind of aliveness. And as I was playing in this daydream over a few days, not forcing it, not trying to make anything happen. Like I said, just playing in it. I could literally feel the difference of when my sacral and my identity center would light up. For me, it's a very warm, upward movement, expansive, full body yes. In certain moments and memories actually. And the energy was just electric for me. So that feeling, that's exactly what Joe Dispenza talks about in Becoming Supernatural. He says that's an elevated emotion, that's genuine joy, gratitude, aliveness. And that is the charge that activates that magnetic pole, remember? Because it's not, like I said, not just having an intention. That's just not enough. You have to have the feeling of the reality you want to draw in. And sometimes that's creating it. Sometimes that's being in it. And I was doing that. I was there fully in this moment in Chicago. So we had been there for a few days and it was the night before we left. And we had went out for Mexican food, had a few margaritas, just laughing, enjoying the day and talking about our time together. We actually were in a downpour, which was very fun trying to get an Uber back. Anyhow, once we got back to their house, we were all just oh, let's just relax for a minute. Do we want to stay up? Do we want to go to bed? We're all pretty much tired. And for some reason, I was like, I wanted to check my email. Not because I was working, just like I had a feeling. And out of nowhere, I see like a few emails, and I was like, what is this? I was so confused. It looked like someone had booked a human design reading. And I was like, how is that possible? Like, I have not been doing anything to promote my business. Nothing. Where did this woman come from? And I look at my website analytics, and I have like lots of traffic from all over. And I'm like, well, that's odd. I'm like, whatever. This is interesting. I'm just going to let it go. I'm tired. I'm going to go to bed. And 2 days later, I get home, I'm going to have this reading with this woman. I also noticed that there's like even more traffic on my website, and a different woman out of the blue to me booked a connection call and became a client within 24 to 48 hours. And at that time, I was still like holding on to the Chicago good vibes that I had been having. I still felt really good in this energy, yet I wasn't doing anything for my business. I was on sabbatical. I was daydreaming about what life would be like that hasn't even happened yet. And then business just walked in the door. That is the magnetic monopole in full effect. That's what happens when you're not forcing. That's what happens when you're in alignment, playing, feeling alive, letting your design do what it's built to do. And it wasn't just one center at work. Once again, for this one, that's the sacral, was definitely there. The identity center, my Incarnation Cross, which for me was quietly pulling the whole thing in that direction that it was already meant to go, because it was my little slice of Eden. That's part of what my Incarnation Cross is. So there you have it. 3 different stories. 2 before I even knew human design, before it walked into my life, and 1 while I was living it. If you had moments like this, things that show up almost too perfectly, you weren't lucky. You were in alignment, and there's a reason for that in your chart somewhere. This is exactly why I always say you have to go beyond just knowing your energy type or even knowing like your chart in general. The magic is getting in there and getting dirty and playing with your chart. Now, I know what some of you, especially if you're experienced human design people, what you're thinking, because I've heard this one before. Molly, you were probably just in the aura of a manifester or a manifesting generator. That's why it worked for you. I want to address that here briefly. My first story, manifesting my husband, I was pretty much alone. I was doing the inner work by myself in my apartment that I had for myself, and I was getting clear on what I wanted. And I did that day in, day out. Yes, it was kind of obsessive, but that's how I am as a person, with doing my inner work. And I did that on and off for 3 years. There was no consistent manifester. There was no manifesting generator nearby. Just me and my design doing exactly what it's supposed to be doing. And then for the dress, yeah, I was already living with my husband. We were, engaged at the time, obviously. And yes, he's a manifesting generator. I'll give you that. But here's what I want you to think about. The signal for that dress was broadcasted both internally and externally. Finding what I wanted on Pinterest, talking about it, or even one like it just to myself or even to my closest friends. The clarity that I had and I held was literally all me. And then in Chicago, the energy lit up in my body, the sacral response, the identity center, the daydreaming about Portland, my Incarnation Cross being activated. That's my internal experience. Business came in because of what was happening in my energy. Was my husband around? Yeah. Was I in the aura of others? Yeah, but to this day, I still don't know what their energy types are. But I was still within me and discovering, like I said, my own little slice of Eden, which is part of my Incarnation Cross. So yes, being in the aura of a manifester or a manifesting generator really can amplify things, especially if they're in their own good energy. I'm not here to say that that's not real, but it's not the source. It's not the reason. And if you've been waiting to hear or waiting to be near the right person before you're allowed to create, I want you to hear this clearly. Your design does not need permission. It's already working for you. Before I wrap this up, let's get back into the non-negotiable foundation. None of this will work without the basics. And maybe, just like younger me, maybe you're already living your design and you just don't know it yet. And if you don't know, there's a pretty easy way to figure that out, which, like I said, is to get your chart. Go back to my website, grab it there, reinventingthearena.com. In there, you're going to have also an energy report. It's 11 pages. And in there, you will find your not self theme. Playing with and living your energy type, using your strategy and authority can do a lot of the heavy lifting for you. This is not gatekeeping. This is sequencing, because the foundation, once it's like solid, can really help you move in the way that you're meant to move. And Dispenza, he says the same thing. You really can't access the quantum field from stress, in survival mode, or, incoherence. You have to get coherent first, even if it's just for a little bit. So living your design and playing with your design is getting coherent. So what does that look like? Honoring how your energy flows during the day, or even a month if you're a reflector. Paying attention to your body in order to feel, hear, or know when it's the right time for your design to make decision and to move forward. We can absolutely look at how you're living your big three in a reading, but if you want to go deeper into experimentation and really live that, that's what my mentorship is all about. So what does this mean for you? For all the generators, projectors, and reflectors, even though we are designed to quote unquote wait, your design is active, it's creative, and it's moving along in its own unique way. The way to manifest for you is different. Reflect back when you've manifested before in the past, like how things, came to you, and start noticing in real life when you're attracting what you desire. Once again, the question isn't whether you can manifest, it's whether you understand the specific way that your design does it. All right, so if today sparks some curiosity about what's actually in your chart, book a reading with me. We can actually look over these areas of manifesting mechanics in your own chart and see, what that means for you, how to play with them. But if you're ready to go deeper, to actually experiment with your design the way I have and build, a lived understanding, that's the mentorship is where this happens. I still have one spot available for the mentorship to start this month. Otherwise, if you have found this podcast episode in July or even October, you can apply for the next round before it begins, which is January 2027. Yes, that is 6 months from this episode getting released. But I will start looking at applications probably. It might be November because of the holidays, so that we can all enjoy some time off. So I'll probably be looking at those, in November. If you want to do that, apply. The application is on my website or will be in the show notes. And if there's a specific area in your life that you want to shift, a goal, a transition, a pattern you're ready to change, that is what coaching is for. We will use your human design, but it's focused. It's more targeted work, more than just like all the things. I have limited spots available before our move. So if this has been in the back of your mind, book that connection call. Thanks again, ladies, for being here. I hope you pull your charts and explore what these areas can do for you. Make sure to join me later on this month because I have another guest coming on the show. She is a manifesting generator with a 6-2 profile, a deeply creative soul, a tarot reader, and someone whose chart is woven through with intuition and self-love. You really won't want to miss this one. So hit subscribe and join my email list to always be in the know. You can do that by grabbing your chart as well. Have a wonderful day, lady, and I will talk to you again soon. Thank you, lady, for joining me on this journey of aligning, embodying, and rising into your most authentic self. Remember, the most important relationship you have is the one you have with yourself. And when you do the inner work, you naturally attract the love and life meant for you. If today's episode resonated with you, I'd love for you to rate and review the show. Your feedback not only helps more women discover the power of self-transformation, but also helps us grow this community. If you're ready to go deeper and align with a relationship and life you truly desire, I invite you to explore my coaching services. Together, we'll use human design, NLP techniques, and self-empowerment tools to help you break through old patterns and create a life that resonates with who you truly are. Visit reinventingthearena.com to learn more and take the next steps in your journey of self-discovery and alignment. Until next time, lady, keep aligning, keep embodying, and keep rising. Thanks for listening to Reinventing the Arena.